Recently, I played through this thing called the Queer Games Bundle, and it came with 500 games of which I played through every single one. But I also received 6 soundtracks, and in order to finalize my showcase of this bundle, I'm going to show you each of these soundtracks. They all cover different genres and varying sounds, and I'll try to share as much knowledge as I can on certain music techniques or things that I pick up on. Oh, and also, I got consent from every single creator that had a soundtrack in the Queer Games Bundle. So big shout out to them, and I hope you enjoy. And one last thing before we start, this is not a tier list, this is not a ranking, and I'm definitely not here to shit on this music in any way, shape, or form. This is merely just a showcase of what is in the Queer Games Bundle. But alrighty, in order to not waste any more time on this intro, let's just get right into it. And up first, we have Hi-Fi Transidelica. I hope I pronounced that one right. And this one is also by Sabrina from TV Band. And now I'm not entirely sure if it was done for this project, but after seeing a song at 20 minutes of runtime, I want to assume that it was done for at least that song. Now I could be wrong in this is just an assumption, but I did talk with the creator very briefly, and their previous project that I made a video on featured mostly live performances, so it could be that this is also a similar project, hence the really long runtimes on some of these songs, but who knows for sure. Anyways, let's just get right into this one. Track 1, Deeper, Hypnosis Mix. Also, a quick side note, this album is classified as psychedelic ambient techno. So track 1 really uses a fuck ton of white noise, and you can use this in varying levels of intensity in music. Sometimes it's used to simply just add texture or space or just to fill up a sound a bit more. I've personally used it the most as like really quiet in the background, just to kind of add a little something that you wouldn't really pick up on, but you'll notice if it's not there. But this is a very interesting use of it where it's just very, very loud and in your face, and it was really cool. It was very interesting. But okay, track number 2, Trans Feminine Nebula. So one reoccurring thing I heard from the last project is the djembe, that like tribal drum. And then the other thing I really liked about this was this like really like reeky kind of sounding lead they had going on. It was very, very interesting, and I like the melodic elements kind of coming through here. It's very interesting to hear, but I'm enjoying it so far. It's very interesting. But okay, up next, track number 3, Gynophilic Candy. I hope I'm saying these right.
It's time for a punishment. You're so poorly trained. On your knees. Open my pants.
So I don't even really know where to start with this one. I genuinely, like, when I listened through this on the first time, I just burst out laughing. I was not expecting that, just lines of dialogue and then the vocal chops. I guess the vocal chops is what I can talk about. Right, so I'm in FL real quick, and I'm just going to show you with an acapella from the song Let Go. But pretty much there's a few ways people will chop vocals, and usually these are used in tandem with each other. Normally you'll either pitch the vocal up or down. You'll either stretch it, make it longer, shorter, and this kind of goes in hand with that, but chopping it, right? You can cut up certain bits and pieces, and then you can also reverse it and play certain segments backwards, and that creates some unique sounds. But normally people will take a vocal and chop it up differently to play a melody that's unique from the song itself. And so here we have this vocal. Drink up, baby, down. Now I can't play too much of this because I will get copyright strike, but just for this example, and this is what I had on hand, this is what I'll show you. Right, so normally when chopping vocals, you want to go for like syllable sounds, like ah, e, I, o, like the a, e, I, o, u, that sort of thing, right? So this ah right here would be really good. But yeah, so we want like this, and then let's say we want to find a reverse segment, right? So here. So this is really nice right here. If you want, you just kind of take these sounds and you can pitch them up or down. So say we want to play this like twice in a row, but we want this one at the start here to be, I don't know, maybe 300 cents up. And you see with just like this little segment here, we want to play this over and over, maybe fade it out, fade it in a bit. So you can kind of make like different melodies and stuff here with this, right? And I mean, this is a really shit melody, but you get the idea. And then here, say we want this one, we can maybe, I don't know, we'll pitch it up like 500 cents here, and we'll stretch it out a bit, right? And then if we want to chop it up or something, I think this is used a lot in like Dom Corleo type songs, but do this very repetitive kind of repeating melody that goes down and plays like the root notes of a chord or something, so you get like, but yeah, you can just repeat things and play certain notes and play different octaves. These chops are definitely not the greatest, but again, it's just an example. But you can do this with all sorts of different vocals, older vocals, newer vocals. You can do it to the point where you can't even really trace it back to a sample. It can get a little crazy. But alright, for the next track, number 4, Goth 1, Dark. So this track just had a very like strange and interesting sound selection. I feel like there's like definitely got to be like weird synthesizers and stuff being used, but just very, very like weird, strange sounds. And that's not a bad thing. But alright, track number 5, Girl Dick, Real Love. Okay, so this one I had to stop a little bit early, but that's just because I really wanted to talk about it. I really love the stereo image on this one. It's just like, it pretty much is just, it pans around a lot. There's a lot of development with how the sound moves in the soundscape, and I don't really need to go into FL to show you an example of this. I can just pan my audio right now left and right, and that is pretty much what I'm talking about. But in a more advanced setting, it can sound like an audio's on the bottom of a mix, or at the top, or in like the back left, if you get what I'm saying. So there's ways to kind of balance a mix out, and this was just really fun to listen to. But okay, number 6, Yearning for Chastity. I'm noticing a common theme, and it's mainly with like the drum sounds, except for the djembe and like the tribal drum stuff. But one of the common sounds I'm hearing is almost like you ran around a junkyard and just started smacking shit, and I really like that. I like these weirder drum sounds that are deviating from more of like a basic like kit and like a drum set, right? And I'm sure some of these might be off like a drum machine or something, but the sound selection for the drums is very interesting. It's very like metally and clanky, and that's pretty cool. Okay, track number 7, Goth 2, Choker. So this one was kind of cool and features something I was talking about in the last video, or a deviation of that. I talked about reverb swells, and this is kind of like a swell but has its differences. The thing with the snare here is the snare hits and then it's reversing back into itself in kind of a swell fashion, a similar kind of sound, just done differently by reversing the snare. Very interesting with the drums again, because now we're getting more of like a classic kind of drum kit sound. But alright, track number 8, Ruby 1. So this track really just felt like a culmination of all the things we've been hearing so far, and they all kind of just blend into this. We get a bit of the djembe, we get a bit of the more drum machine kind of sound, a bit more of that kit sounds in there, as well as like that metallic sound kind of persevering through this. But overall, just a very interesting track. All right, track number 9, Succubus, Soulless Mix. So this one started to bring in some strings, which we haven't heard yet on this project, but yesterday's video that I made on the first album did include those strings. And so this person, I'm assuming they are using a lot of the same synthesizers and stuff, or have at least some kind of favorite sound and like to work with those. But very interesting nonetheless. All right, track number 10, Goth 3, Arm Warmer Mix. So one thing I haven't talked about yet with this project is the really strong usage of counter melodies. Now, counter melodies show up all the time in music, but pretty much it's when a melody plays while another melody is playing. What happens in a lot of these songs is a melody will start to build out in usually a 4 to 8 bar pattern, and then something else will come in after 8 bars goes by. In other more popular songs and famous things you'll hear, they'll use different time signatures, but usually it's 4 to 8 bars that people will stick within. And the type of melody you get obviously will vary, but you hear this a lot on this project, and I really like to hear the different kinds of melodies this person goes for. All right, track number 11, Succubus V4. So this song might be my favorite one I've heard from this specific album. I really enjoyed just how open it was and how spacious it felt, and then the bit of reverb that was on it. It wasn't like way too much reverb where it was just drowned out, but even if it was, I think I still would have enjoyed it as much as I did. Definitely made me think about almost like sewer slug pads and stuff, if you ever heard of them. But obviously it's very distinctly different from them, but it did make me think of them. And now on to track number 12, Ruby 2. So yeah, this track was kind of like a similar track earlier. It's using a lot of the sounds we've kind of already established that are going to be used for this. The main thing that stood out to me was these like really fucked with kicks I was hearing. They were almost like a really pogoed out kick, if that makes any sense. Or best, another way I could describe it is like almost like an alien sounding kick. And that was probably the strangest thing that stood out to me. But just kind of playing different melodies and things, but with sounds we've already established. All right, track number 13, Leather Fixation, Catsuit Mix. So again, really interesting use of white noise here. The kind of vibes I get from this is almost like like scrapyard or like in the sewers, and there's like these gaskets kind of bursting, and that's what this song really has, is these like punching white noise bits of almost like steam. And it's a very interesting sound that we've heard a bit earlier, right, with the walls of white noise that we were hearing in some of the sounds, and now we're getting this like push of white noise. And you could kind of compare that to what we talked about in the previous video with how you can mess with the attack of a sound and delay it out more, and that creates that kind of push of a sound out with that white noise. That's really cool. But all right, on to track 14, the final track, Black Magic. Okay, with this track being 20 minutes, I can only show so much of it. There's one main thing I guess there's two main things I want to talk about. One, this does reintroduce a lot of the elements we've kind of already established and heard, and I think this might be my favorite track now, unironically. It brings in these long, elongated kind of sounds that are really wide and have a bit of reverb on them, and I really like that. It also does this thing with what I'm assuming is an LFO, which is just a low frequency oscillator, and I'm going to show you real quick just what that sounds like and how you can kind of use them. So let's say we take this pad right here, pretty chill, nothing too crazy, and then let's say we throw a LFO on it, and we're going to do just like a basic triangle low pass LFO. And so this effect I've mainly used just to mimic an underwater effect. And so now if we play this, you'll kind of get an idea of what this is doing. And so it's combing through the frequencies and opening up certain ends of it, right? And now we get this, right? And this is how you get those kind of moving different stereo image kind of sounds, right? Now it's back down, and then it's gonna sweep back up again. But yeah, in a more literal definition, it sweeps through frequencies, and you can automate it to either pulse or like double pause, but you can automate it to move around and do stuff, and that is pretty useful. But they were using it a lot in this track, and that's really awesome. But okay, that was all of this album, and I think I'm gonna stop here now because I'm finishing this at 4 a.m. and I need to sleep. But I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and tomorrow we should be able to get 3 in, because the next one only has 3 tracks. So hopefully we'll be able to get 2 of the albums in there. But yeah, I'm gonna end this the same way I did yesterday. I'm tired, and I'm gonna sleep now. Good night.